Today we're going to service the cooling system on a 1997 GMC Safari. We're going to change the water pump, thermostat housing, and both radiator hoses. Disconnect the negative battery terminal and make sure it can't make its way back by wedging something in between. Open up the drain plug and collect that nasty fluid. This fluid hasn't been changed in years. I put a funnel. It made the job easier. I didn't get splatter all over the place. Disconnect these two connectors and remove all air intake components. You will need a large flathead. For this component, you will need to unscrew a plastic cap to it. My doghouse is off, so I had easy access to it. The upper fan shroud uses 3 10mm bolts on the top, 4 10mm bolts on the bottom. Use a 15-inch extension for the bottom ones. This telescoping magnetic tool makes it very easy to retrieve those 10mm bolts. Before removing the fan shroud, it is a good idea to remove the upper radiator hose. If you're using these types of hose clamps, you're gonna have a tough time. You're gonna have to upgrade to one of these. We're gonna replace the thermostat. Take out this connector and loosen up the 14mm in the back first. But be very careful because there's a ground cable strapped on there. So when you go to loosen it up, make sure it doesn't move. If that ground cable begins to move, tighten up the bolt and begin to loosen it up little by little until it doesn't move. So here we're in the clear. A lot of penetrating fluid helps. Once you got that 14mm out of the way, I'm using a 6-inch extension on that. So once you got that out of the way, you can remove the 13mm with the deep socket and that same 6-inch extension. Old water outlet, new water outlet. Also, our new thermostat doesn't have a pressure relief hole, and the old one does. So be wary of that. Also, look at the inside of that. Wow! The thermostat and its housing have been replaced. Now we're torquing down the 13mm bolts to 18 foot-pounds. To finish off, we place our ground cable where it goes and tighten it up snug. Next, we move on to the hardest part of the job, and that's loosening the fan clutch nut. First, I took out one of these 10mm bolts using a ratcheting wrench. Then using this universal pulley holder by gear wrench, I stuck it into one of the holes. Next, I placed my spanner on the nut and I hit it as hard as I could with the hammer until it loosened up. Now, I probably used this tool wrong, but that's the method that worked for me. Remove the remaining 10mm bolts and your pulley. Loosen up the serpentine belt with the 3/8-inch drive on this tensioner. Remove the 3 hoses connected to your water pump. To gain access to the constant tension clamps on the bypass hose, I removed the tensioner pulley with the 13mm. Next, the water pump itself has 2 14mm bolts on the left side, 2 14mm bolts on the right side, easily accessible with the 12-inch extension. And that is it. Look at that. I'm gonna swap out the bypass hose, then coat the gaskets with a thin layer of this gasket adhesive, and then stick them on the block. As you can see, the area has been prepared. This bolt kit by Dorman is a direct replacement for your water pump bolts. I mean, you're gonna put that back in there? No way, man. Brand new, clean. This set also comes with your pulley bolts. The factory pulley bolts are 10 millimeters, but the Dorman replacements are 13 millimeters. I'm gonna coat this side of the water pump with a light coat of that gasket adhesive. In here, those gaskets are ready to go. It's been about 30 minutes and this should be fine if I bolt it up. Tighten the water pump bolts to 33 foot-pounds. I did it in an X pattern. I'm using a 12-inch extension, so it kinda lied to the torque wrench. After that, put your pulley back on with the appropriate bolts. These are torqued to 18 foot-pounds. All the hoses are back in there. I changed the bottom radiator hose. The OEM hose had a spring to it. The new one didn't. Reinstall your tensioner and torque it down to 33 foot-pounds. Reinstall your serpentine belt, and that makes these easier to torque down. Reconnect that adapter. Now your fan clutch nut, thread it on there until it can't spin anymore. Take your 36 millimeter spanner and hit it with the hammer. Now make sure, move the fan clutch to the left, make sure it can unthread. Get your fan shroud back on there and place your upper radiator hose where it belongs. As you can see, I'm already installing some of the air intake components. So let's finish that up. The air intake has been reassembled, plugged back in those connections, and I also changed the air filter. Now's a really good time to rinse out your overflow tank. I mean, look at all that grime just right there. All it takes is one connector, one hose, and another hose on the other side. If we take a look on the inside, yeah. I'm telling you, the fluid in this overflow tank is beyond filthy. Chocolate milkshake, anyone? At most, the Safari takes up 16.5 liters of coolant. I have 4 gallons of it here, 2 concentrated, 2 distilled. That comes out to 16 liters. Mix it into your bucket and add it to your spill-proof funnel. Red adapter works perfect here. I'm also gonna change out the radiator caps, and it's a job complete. Have a good day, you guys.